Greetings, people of unassumed gender. I am, unfortunately, largely unemployed, so welcome to the first video of my new YouTube channel. Today we'll be getting our very first series in the game Planetbase. From its website description, Planetbase is a strategy game where you guide a group of space settlers trying to establish an outpost on a remote planet. In the game, you play the role of a base architect and manager, telling your colonists where to build the structures they will need to survive. You will have to ensure that they have a constant supply of oxygen, food, and water to stay alive. You will get them to collect energy, extract water, mine metal, grow food, manufacture bots, and build a fully self-sufficient base. Even if the game is not intended to be a simulator, all the mechanics are plausible and based on what the expected challenges of planetary colonization might be. So, our plan for this playthrough is to begin. I have done the tutorial, but the system doesn't seem to believe me. Our plan for this playthrough is to play through each of these 4 planets, Class D, F, M, and S respectively, trying to achieve as many of the accomplishments or milestones as possible per planet. Now, as you can see, Class F will require 4 milestones, M 8 milestones, and S 12 milestones to unlock. So let's have a look at Class D, which is our currently only playable planet. Very Mars looking, isn't it? Well, it's quite pretty. Class D, medium-sized desert planet with a thick CO2 atmosphere, which partially protects it from meteors and solar flares. Light amount high, therefore solar panels operate at full capacity. Atmospheric density is high, therefore it is suitable for wind turbines. Sandstorm risk is high, and meteor risk is low. Interestingly enough, let's just look for a suitable base location, but interestingly enough, wind turbines would not actually work in the Martian atmosphere if this was to be a proper Mars analog, as it is far too thin. The air density isn't there. But I suppose as a starter planet they had to make some concessions. So let's have a look. I'm not entirely sure if this actually makes any difference as to the terrain we'll be given, but it's fun to play around. That looks like quite an interesting landscape over there, so I think we'll play with that one. Now, base D71, that sounds rather boring. I think in keeping with the name of our channel, we're going to call our base Jobs, please. There we go. Location north 60 degrees and west 54. Again, I have no idea if this has any bearing on the actual map we'll be given. Presumably it is procedurally generated, as all things these days are. You can turn off power to all non-vital structures in one click on the grids panel. You can use this when low on power. I will be providing an explanation of all the game systems as we play it through, so you can treat this as a bit of a beginner's guide as well. So here we go. Here is our colony ship landing, and our colonists will begin to disembark now. And first off the ramp are workers. They are designated by these little blue stripes. They do all the menial jobs of the colony. Then come the biologists, that's our farmers basically, our engineer who repairs things and makes robots eventually, our medic who repairs our colonists, and our 2 little pro robots that we get. We have a constructor and a carry robot. They have a higher work speed than the human counterparts by quite a large amount. Okay, so it looks like we picked quite a good location. We've got a nice flat area to work with initially, and it seems to span off all the way up here. So with our terrain scouted, we can begin to build. Now all structures in Planetbase require a connection to function. So for starters, we're going to go up here to the Build tab. Now we can pick between either an interior structure or an exterior structure. Of course, interior structures are contained, and therefore our colonists can breathe in them. Starting off, we'll place an airlock, which will be the entry point to our colony. Initially, you want this really close to your colony ship, because they'll vary resources between the two. Then you want an oxygen generator, which you can scale the size of with the mouse button, the middle mouse button, by scrolling it up and down. I think right off the bat we'll go with the big one, so that we don't have to worry about it for a while. Now, our colony will require 3 things. 1, power. So we need to place a solar panel, which of course works best in the day. I think we'll just place the small one initially. Buildings cannot be upgraded once they are placed, so you kind of have to make the decision early on what you're going to place and what sort of size you're going to go with off the bat. Now, we also need somewhere to store that solar power for the night, so we'll place a large accumulator. I'm scrolling all the way up because you really can't have enough power in this game. That's what kills me the most often, is losing power in the first few days. And then of course we'll need a water extractor. Now we'll just place the large one because we placed the large oxygen collector, and again it's something we won't have to worry about for a while. The amount of water you get is completely erratic, and it will shift from almost nothing to a whole lot all the time. So it's best to have a surplus rather than a lack thereof. Now, while our colonists begin to build all these things, I'll explain very briefly the resource systems. So as you can see here, we have 7 colonists, 2 construction robots. That is our daytime left. Once that hits the full bar, it will switch to night, and this is the current wind speed. You can build wind turbines, as you saw, if the planet is suitable for them. So let's switch over to our resources tab. You can also press T. Now, we have food. These are the number of meals that our colonists can eat. They can only eat these in a canteen or a cafeteria. Here we have our metals. These are used in conjunction with bioplastics to build various things. External structures require only metals. Interior structures require both metals and bioplastics to function. And most internal appliances and sort of factory components require bioplastics to place. So that sort of balances out between the outside and the inside with the placing of internal structure components. Now, that's our medical supplies and our spares. Medical supplies, of course, repair your colonist's health, and spares repair damaged parts. External parts will deteriorate over time, while internal parts will sometimes be damaged by random world events, like meteor strikes. Now, to get our colonists eating, we better place a canteen. Since this is a relatively central building, we're going to place it, we won't go big, we'll just place it right there so they've got somewhere to eat in the meantime. And from that point, we can branch off our colony. Now, we want to place next we want to place a dormitory where our colonists can sleep. Now, this is a dead end structure denoted by the T, which you can see here, which you can see here underneath its resource cost. That means it is a terminus, a dead end. So we're going to build a small dormitory and connect it to the other dead end of our colony, which is our airlock. Sorry, I blanked on the word for a minute there. Now, with these 3 structures in place, we can begin. Now we've got oxygen production up, so our short-term needs of our colonists have been met, which are here. So once you click on a colonist, you'll see their name. Landon Geltic is our biologist, and he is perfectly healthy. He's getting a bit hungry. He could use a drink of water. Once this turns yellow, it's dire, and once it turns red, it is extremely dire. And when it goes all the way to the bottom, they will die of that cause. As you can see, he's in need of a bit of oxygen, and as soon as that bar turns yellow, he will move into the base and refresh his oxygen bar. This is the amount of sleep he needs, and of course his morale. Morale is improved by placing various things within your base and the number of people that have died recently. Now, we want to select colonists inside our base so we can see what they're doing. So we're going to click the top-down button, and that lets us see the interior and select the interior of our colony. Okay, that's about everything for now. Oh, a meteor strike just happened right there. Those can really damage your structures and can kill your colonists if they're in an internal building that is struck. Now, our robots will begin to deteriorate. This is their maximum health, so once that goes to 0, they will break down forever. But this is their temporary health. So once this reaches 0, an engineer will have to go out and repair them to heal them up. Okay, we've shifted over to the night phase. So now you can see our power is going to have to get us through the night, and at the moment it's not particularly probable that it will. We've only got 1 solar power powering it, and it is a relatively large adapter. It's actually the largest power collector we can build. They're basically giant batteries. So here we see our grid. So there we go, our grid consumes 12 kilowatts on the left and produces 0. And during the day it will produce a maximum of 30 out of this 1 solar panel. Now, let's have a look at our canteen. You click up here on the top left, you can click recycle to deconstruct the building. You will not get the resources back for the corridor. Or you can click the edit button to place things. So we want a meal dispenser right over there that costs 1 bioplastic, and that will provide our colonists with food. They'll load meals into it and eat them. Now we can place a large table, so 4 colonists can sit at a time, and we'll place a small drinking fountain right there. Without the drinking fountain, your colonists will die of thirst. Okay, now to keep morale up, let's place a TV screen. Now, these will be deleted if you make branching corridors, so you want to place this somewhere you don't think you're going to expand towards, and I doubt we'll expand towards our terminus. I don't think we have space, so we can place that right there. And we'll place a beautiful decorative pot plant right over there with plenty of room to spare to keep our colonists happy. Now the same applies to our dormitory. We need to add beds. Each bed supports 2 colonists, and with 8 of them we only need about 6. They rotate and they share bunks. They will be much happier, of course, with their own private cabins, but that is not an initial requirement. I would not recommend it either, as until you manufacture your own produce, you don't really want to be spending it on necessary things like luxuries. So with that done, and that said, we need to start looking at expanding our manufacturing so our colony can become fully self-sufficient. Let's head back into the Structures tab and have a look here at the Biodome. Now the Biodome is a fairly large part of the gameplay, and you will need several of them as your colony grows larger. This produces vegetables and other plants. Vegetables are used to, of course, create food, which is then placed inside that little meal processor and turned into meals that your colonists can consume. Now, you want your Biodome right next to the cafeteria if you can help it, but also relatively central to your colony, because I find they make quite nice walkthroughs, and if you put trees in them, they distribute oxygen to nearby rooms. So let us place, and we're going to scroll to the medium one, 5 and 5, that's fine. And we're going to place it, I think, right about here for now. Click, click to link them up. Sorry, I didn't mention that earlier. You just merely click on a structure and click on a structure, and the link tab will show up. Click on it and a construction, and the corridor will be constructed. Of course, corridor for an indoor corridor costs 1 bioplastic and 1 metal, whereas outside it costs only 1 metal. Ooh, you can see our power storage is critical. But it's only because it is now at 10% of its usual value, but that is plenty for this little colony. We're drawing almost no power, and it's nearly daytime. However, for a little bit of extra power security, let's throw in a wind turbine, just so we can produce power at night when the sun is gone. Let us scroll up to a medium one for 2 metal, click, click, and link. There we go. Now, next step would be to create a workshop where we will begin to manufacture our metals and bioplastics in. So we need to place the workshop near a mountain. You don't want this too far away from the resources that it brings in, which is from a mine, which has to be placed on a mountain. So generally what I do is I start with the mine, and I find a nearby suitable location. So we can't place it on this little outcrop. Oh, we can place it there. But connecting to the colony might be quite difficult because you have to link it up to an airlock. So since we're probably going to want an airlock down here anyway, why don't we place our mine on this little mountain range? If we can find a suitable spot, that is. Excuse me. Looks like we are shortchanged on location. Our realtor sold us a poor spot. So let us drop our mine right here so we can get a connection to the base. Oh, you know what it is? My mistake. My apologies, everyone. I forgot that there has to be a link to the base in order for the mine to be placed. It has to be near a pre-existing structure in order to be linked to it. Unless, of course, you place it as your first structure, which I wouldn't recommend. In this case, you can put it anywhere. But then everything else will have to be built next to it. So, let's head back to our internal structures and place our processing plant. That is basically your manufacturing center for your colony. So let's stick the processing plant, we'll make a medium-sized one right there, and we'll link it up there for now, and later we can link it up there as well. That will provide us with 2 points for the colonists to move around. Now, you want your processing structure and your biodome to be linked because the two of them feed each other. The biodome produces not only vegetables for the cafeteria, but also starch for the processing plant, which will turn it into bioplastic. Sorry, brain fart there. Now, of course, to exit the branch to the mine, we need to place an airlock. Now, the airlock will snap straight, so it will fit straight in line with the corridor that is attached to it. So I think we can place our airlock right there comfortably, and it will snap forward. And then we can place our mine right nearby. There we go. That is, of course, the entrance of the mine, the little gap in it you can see there on the left. So we want to place that as close to the airlock as possible to maximize our efficiency. And voila, link it up. Now, I'm not entirely certain, but I believe your colonists get a very small walking boost for walking along these corridors, but it is not entirely required to place them together. As you can see, we have a look at our situation. We've still got plenty of meals, so it's okay that this is taking a little minute to get done. As the colonists are shipping things from here to here, it's quite a fair distance. And you'll see right here that our small constructor bot moves quite a bit faster than his human counterparts. Now, this gentleman here needs water, quite desperately it seems, so he's going to go get himself a drink. And these guys here all require sleep. They will come to the bunks to fulfill that need. They also move slower when any of their needs are not being fully met. I believe sleep specifically, once it's reaching pretty critical levels, reduces their movement speed quite substantially. Alright, so we're just going to cut forward until all of this is built. Alright, in the meantime, actually, while we're waiting, let's have a look at our other tabs. So, on the left here, we have base management. This gives us a whole bunch of statistics for our base. Starting at the bottom right, we have our milestones. These are the number of things that we need to complete to advance to the next planet. As you can see, we've completed survival. We've made it a whole day. Next is to get expansion, new colonists in the base, century, a population of 100, power monger, 500 kilowatts of power generated at any given time. Technocracy, acquire 10 techs, those are blueprints. I do not know if they carry over planets. Build, bioplastic processor, metal processor, meal maker, and mine and biodome. That is self-sufficiency, it usually comes right after survival. Standing, reach a prestige of 100. Prestige is your fame rating, basically. It designates how likely other people are to come to your colony and settle there. Robotization, produce 10 robots, build or purchase, 10 robots rather. Megalomania, you build the monolith. It is a large prestige gaining structure. I've only ever built it once. Reach population of 300. That is of course the step up from century, or population of 100. Then we can have a look at techs. These are all the blueprints we can buy from traders. Or sometimes I believe you can be given them in events, but I don't think I've ever experienced that. Where you get various patents that improve the efficiency or provide you with the ability to construct certain things. For example, this allows us to build a huge wind turbine, which provides even more power. Constructor robots allowing us to build them, whereas here we have, as opposed to regular tomatoes, genetically modified tomatoes. GMO is good for you guys, stick with it. Grid. This shows our power. Again, the consumption versus production, as well as our storage. Our water, and again, the storage. Consumption versus production, and again, oxygen consumption versus production. Roughly, oxygen works out, well, it works out exactly to 1 oxygen, 1 colonist. So this can support 30 colonists before we need another one. And it requires 1.5 water minimum. And as you can see here, the water amount fluctuates. It will never be more than 7.5, and it will very, very often be far less than that. 6.7 is actually a pretty good rate. For a bit of security later, once we have this extra materials, we will build ourselves a water tank, just for a bit of extra water security, because you don't ever want to run out, because then of course your oxygen supply depletes. Now, with our structures getting closer to finished, let's keep looking at the base management tab, and then we'll move off. Charts. These show our resources generated over time, as well as consumed. So each highlighted thing shows us the chart for that produce, so you can overlay them, which is quite useful. So we started with, what was that, 30 meals, and we are now approaching 28, getting closer there. Here we can see our metal. You can see we have not got much left, only 11, and once we start producing, this will hopefully have a much steeper climb. And then finally, your statistics. So this shows you the number of engineers, workers, biologists, engineers, medics, and guards. Guards are used when you get invaders. Later, once you bring in tourists and colonists to your colony, invaders will attempt to steal it from you and steal your wealth. They will also kill your colonists, which is very annoying. Here we go. So now, these new rooms have been built. As you see, they've turned red because they are still filling quite slowly with oxygen. The day-night cycle makes very little difference to your colonists. The day-night cycle makes very little difference to your colonists' sleep habits. The only thing it really affects is your solar panel generation. Now, let's have a look at our biodome. We need to start placing some structures. So, let's go in here, and we can have a look. There's quite a large variety of things we can place. First off, we have starch-producing biopods. These allow us to place peas, rice, potatoes, wheat, or maize. Now, peas grow very fast, but they take a lot of maintenance. That means you need a biologist to be tending to them quite frequently. They will produce 2 food and 1 starch. Tomatoes also grow very fast, but will produce 3 food. The same goes for lettuce, and the same as peas. Rice are very fast to produce, high maintenance, and produce 2 food, 1 starch. Same goes for all starch. So I think we're going to play the middle ground for the moment, and we'll place a potato pad, as well as a onion pad and a radish pad. And then just to get some quick short-term food, we'll place a lettuce pad. You want to diversify your food production, as if you have too many of the same type of food, I believe there's a chance your colonists may get sick and have a reduction in health. Diversification is key. Now, we can also place trees, which are quite interesting, because they produce oxygen during the day, but consume some oxygen at night, not very much at all. Colonists also get a very large morale boost from looking at the trees. I will place it takes one bioplastic for each of these. I will place them once we have some spare, perhaps in a secondary biodome. Now over to the processing plant. We've used 4 of our bioplastic of the remaining 7 to build that, so we need to use at least 1 metal, to create a bioplastic from starch, which we placed over there. Then we'll place a metal processor over there, which will turn metal ore, which we receive from this, into metal ingots that we can use. Ultimately, you can also place medicinal plants like this one, which will provide you with medicinal herbs, and I think it's 3 of which provide you with 1 medical supply, which is crafted in a lab, which is another terminus. It is the 3rd and final terminus building. See, now the game has told me to recycle the colony ship, which is an interesting proposition, because recycling the colony ship gives you, I think, 20 more of each resource to keep expanding your base. We don't need to do it just as yet, because if you leave these products out in the environment, they will begin to deteriorate. So once everything is up, built and running, what we will do is build a storage room, probably just off here. Once the storage room is built, we can deconstruct this and the colonists will ship everything back down into the storage room. I don't like leaving things out there if I don't strictly need to. Alright, our colony's looking rather good. I think once all of our internal buildings are up and running, and I've showed you the very basics of some of the way they are manufactured and maintained, we will call that the end of our first ever episode. Next episode we'll look at expanding, of course, our storage, and possibly looking at building our first spaceport and getting some colonists to come to the colony. That should be a lot of fun. That's when the game really starts to take off and you can start trading and sharing resources, and, really get sort of a manufacturing system up and running once you have more people, more manpower, more power. Oh, our little robot here, as you can see by his little motif, is in need of some repairs. He's rather poor quality. Now, I believe... Oh, we've reached the milestone of self-sufficiently. There we go. And you get a nice little placard to tell you you've done well. Do I have to click away from this? I can't remember. There we go. Okay, so now as you can see, he's moving quite slowly with his damaged self. An engineer should come to him relatively soon. I don't think he's required to reach a completely decrepit state before he's repaired. But ultimately you can build a robot self-service station where when they begin to break down, they will go and repair themselves. Here comes our biologist. He will now begin tending, as you can see, maintaining the radish pad, and its quality, its service quality, will go from what it was to excellent again. And that gives it its fastest growth modifier. As you can see, it will produce 3 vegetables, whereas our potato pad will produce 2 vegetables and 1 starch. Once we've got quite a lot of vegetables going, we'll switch over to starch, but I believe this game requires a bit more patience, and of course you guys won't have to see that, we'll just cut through it. Then, finishing off our top bar for the episode, we have our time control, so you can decrease the game speed, it goes maximum of 1, or a minimum of 1 rather, and go all the way up to 4, which is how most people would agree the game should be played. Anything less than that, it is a bit stagnant. For now, we'll set back to 1, just to get this started going. So we can see the tops of our colony again, or hide them. It's just, it's more aesthetic, but you cannot control the individual aspects of your colony, so I'm not a fan of it. We can quick save, or press F9 to do so. And then, of course, there is the game menu, also achievable by pressing escape. Finally, help. This is your, well, I suppose your encyclopedia of things to learn. I won't read it all to you, that will take an episode on its own, so I will leave this up to you if you buy the game to get it. I will place, of course, the link to the game in the description below. You can purchase it on Steam, or off its forums, I believe, but I will link the website as well. And yes, so thank you everyone. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I will be releasing this video along with the next two probably right off the bat, just to give the channel something to start with, and then you can hopefully expect 2 to 3 videos per week, depending on how my personal life plays out. Ideally more than that, but I will definitely try to maintain a minimum of 2 to 3 videos per week, and we will be playing all sorts of games from all sorts of genres, and eventually once my webcam that I have ordered arrives, we will begin to do sort of, let's plays with a bit of a face cam in the corner, perhaps the right corner, I'm not sure, and a bit of humor thrown in there too. Okay, thank you very much. Again, if you liked it, please hit that like button and subscribe. Have a great day.